RPO Sports, it's Trysten, AB, and JP back for another episode of the Next Level Podcast. Gentlemen, we are days away from the kickoff of the NFL season, 2018 NFL season, I should say, and the biggest headline to date right now, Colin Kaepernick back in the news for a somewhat controversial Nike ad. AB, you were all over this story this morning.
I just think, first off, it's great to be back. Football season has started. We're in a fantasy league. We actually have a fantasy football league, Next Level.
Right.
Throw that out there. But, of course, you got to ask. I'm torn. I'll be honest. I'm just torn with this whole thing. There's pros and cons to both sides. But I'll say this, because regardless of the back and forth, I can't do the back and forth thing. I can't be one or the other, because I feel like the media kind of perpetuates this hate. I think the Nike is making a quick buck off of this whole deal. But I'll just be completely honest with you, and then we can kind of move the subject on. People 35 and under really don't care about this.
Right.
It's the older generation that still has racial views and issues, and, you know, one's talking about the flag, one's talking about police brutality, and I get that. And there is, I'm a black man in America. I get it. And there is police brutality, and there should be things done about it. And being better community members, we all should be that. But to have this narrative or have this back and forth thing going on, it's like, I just feel like it's a lot of puppeteering going on. And at the end of the day, man, just love somebody. Like, I mean that sincerely. Just love somebody, because this is a hateful, kind of a hateful thing that's circulating our nation right now. Mm-hmm. And when I want to be excited about football, you know, this is why a lot of people are kind of going away from the television, because you kind of want to hear about football. But me personally, obviously, I'm torn. Again, I'm a black man in America. I get it, and there should be attention to this. And I can't even say how I view Colin Kaepernick in this, because he's been getting paid the whole time.
Right.
And when you're an activist, it should be for the cause. So there's so many things that I don't know what to tell you, honestly, to have a strong enough opinion. But what I can tell you is that at the end of the day, can we just love each other, love football, and kind of try to rectify both sides and move on, and not argue amongst each other about this.
Now, the biggest storyline I find in all of it is you talk about 35-year-olds and older being the only ones that care about this. Now, the media has spun this to be an anti-military, anti-American protest by Colin Kaepernick. JP, I'm gonna reference you, a 20-year Army veteran in this world of NFL fandom as well. Does it offend you, and how do you stand on the Colin Kaepernick situation?
First off, I just bought a pair of Nikes on Saturday, and I'm very proud of the fact that I did, and glad that I did. I think it's awesome, actually. I'm glad he did it. I think that it's definitely been twisted, the narrative, that it's disrespectful to the flag, it's disrespectful to people in the military service. That's just hot garbage, and a narrative that somebody created to go around it because they didn't want to face what the issue really is. It's a special forces soldier that went on and played football at UT and then with Seattle briefly, that told Kaepernick, "Hey man, take a knee." And I think that's lost too. And it was a white guy that was like, "Take a knee. That's what we do in the military. It just means you need a break. So take a knee. Don't sit. Take a knee." And that was cool. But I think that the whole national anthem thing is garbage. It didn't happen until the Army, the military, Department of Defense, I should say, started paying the NFL money for acts of patriotism, which included players on the sideline with the big flag across the field in the national anthem. So quit taking that money, keep everybody off the field, or don't play the national anthem at all before it starts. And then there is no controversy. Nobody's going to kneel because it's not happening. And quit talking about it. Don't show it on TV, ESPN. We're not going to show it. Great. Move on. Let's just get to the game. That's what people want to see, right?
At the end of the day, it's always going to be a money ploy. All of these things are big business decisions. Trust me, Nike didn't go out there without doing the proper analytics.
No, they're smart.
They're
smart.
And the funny thing is, even with our production today, we've kind of upped our production with Next Level, RPO. And this happened by a quote-unquote millennial kind of pushing me into this kind of new era, next level, so to speak. And that's what Nike is doing. Nike is reaching a group 35 and under. They don't even care. They're almost like watching you like argue amongst each other and say, you're not going to get what we're doing anyway. Because the people that they're trying to reach are 35 and under. So it's like they did their proper work. But again, I'm like, anytime as a black person you watch one of these videos and you see how things transpire, as a black person, it crushes me to my soul. I am a large man. I have conquered many things in life and overcome many things. But anytime you see that, it just crushes me to my soul that can happen. And even myself, I do community work. I train people. I'm a good dad. I'm a good husband. But I can be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I would be naive not to think that. So it's like bringing light to that is what Kaepernick is trying to do. And I understand that. But it's to a point where at me as a 35, I'm kind of in the middle of that millennial, older generation. And that's where my opinion lies. I'm kind of stuck. Because obviously I get where Colin Kaepernick is coming from. But all the money being made and the puppeteering that's going on, I can't get with that. That's just me personally.
AB, I like what you're saying, and there's a song I heard a couple of days ago that said, instead of speculating on things that we really know nothing about, let's learn a little more. And I think anytime you can sit and listen to somebody speak about personal experiences and then how they perceive things in the media, you're not always going to change people's minds, and you're definitely not going to change the opinions of millions of Americans that are now protesting Nike and throwing their shoes away, cutting their socks. But why don't you sit and listen for a minute? And one of the reasons that we're talking about it today is just to inform the people out there. These are things that are going to happen. These are stories that need to be told, and there's a place and time for all of it. Do I think Sundays right before I want to watch a kickoff of an NFL game is the time for it? Probably not. But at some point, you've got to have that conversation. And I think there's no better time than now with Colin Kaepernick and the Nike ad to make it happen.
I think he was right for using it as his platform. I mean, he had that ability, so why not bring light to it? I just think it got hijacked and went a terrible route.
And this is another thing. I don't mean to cut you off, Tris. That, again, as a 35-year-old, I'm in that middle. And one thing I kind of just didn't like about this whole thing, he just never spoke. Like, for me, like, and I can look at it like he didn't speak because the things happening in major cities across the country speaks loud enough. And I don't believe he knew he was going to take all. No, he didn't know he was going to take all of what he took on.
No.
But once you take that on, me personally, I feel like you have a responsibility to have more of a voice. But again, speaking to the guys that I train, and I'm around millennials every day, all day, and they think it's more powerful in not speaking, posting pictures, being in GQ, the ad that comes out with Nike. That relates to these kids. So I'm just, again, just torn. I'm just torn.
It's a fine line to walk between listening to the talking heads on TV and then being one of those talking heads. And I think if you can eliminate all doubt by not going out there and letting somebody twist your words and say, this is actually probably what he meant. It reminds me of being in a high school English class as you read through the book and you say, I think the poet meant this, and probably he just meant like he had red shoes on, not that he was going through the streets where there was murder and everything going on. I got off topic there, but I'm just saying these are the things that it makes me think about. There are going to be more stories like this to be told, but I appreciate the two different perspectives here on the Next Level podcast today, because it's not always you get to get two opinions that could be so various, but kind of center on the same thing.
But that's the thing, though. That's the thing. It's okay. It's okay to have a difference of opinion. We all came from different places, different people, different races, religion. It's okay to disagree. That's the thing that, like, it's okay. But how do we solve something? Solving something doesn't come from, clashing all day, every day. Solving, sometimes you got to humble yourself. Because if you're angry, it's, I'm married, you're married. When you're angry, you don't really hear things. That's just nature, But when you got two sides going against each other and there's anger involved, nothing is ever going to get solved. But again, and I don't know, I'm not trying to make the cutoff 35, but that's what I believe that it is. 35 and up, 35 and down, on how you interact and how you take things. Again, we live in a generation that is not like where I came from. You live in a different generation to where people are way more accepted. Other things are accepted that weren't even, I'm 35, weren't even tolerated in my time in high school. And the things that kids have today, do today, is in a sense accepted. So they're not thinking about race and all these other things to the level at which the 35 and plus are. And I think at the 35 and plus, the God's honest truth, over 35, are you really changing? I think that's that point where you're like, I am who I am, and stuck. Deal with it.
Yeah.
And so those people, they're always going to argue. They're always going to argue. But again, I'm just going to come back to this. I'm not going to pick one side or the other. I just think at the end of the day, if you're open to understand people, compromise, humble yourself at particular points, and love one another, I think a lot can happen. And a lot of great can happen in this world, in this country that we live in, that, is influenced by internet and social media. So that's kind of where I stand on that.
Well, I think when you're on the topic of social media, it's a perfect segue to remind you all to stick around all season for stories like this. The Next Level podcast is going to hit the hard-hitting stories, and we're going to be back to just talk sports every once in a while. It's AB, it's JP, it's myself. Make sure to find us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at RPO Sports, and our Facebook page, RPO Sports as well. For this week, it's the Next Level podcast.